Part of what he's doing up there is me up there. It's underlining it. I think that's going to be one of the main difficulties, you know, of asking actors to direct other actors, because if I get an idea, and please God I'll get some, but I've got to give it away. I've got to give it to another actor to do. There seems to be a kind of natural agreement, as it were, a tacit understanding that this is both my Hamlet and Derek's Hamlet, because it's Derek's Hamlet as he wishes to see the play, and my Hamlet as I wish to play the character, with a lot of give on both sides. So fare you well. Upon the platform betwixt 11 and 12. That's all right. Upon the platform betwixt 11 and 12. I'll visit you.
Hamlet offers many layers of meaning and possibility. The story, by comparison, is relatively simple.
Tis here! Tis here! One of the great strengths of this play, and again one of its attractions, is that it is a wonderful thriller.
You must know your father lost a father. That father lost his. And the survivor.
The story is of a prince whose father has died, whose mother has married the father's brother, much to the surprise of the prince.
It is a cause of impious stubbornness. It is unmanly. It has will most incorrect.
This prince, who is visited by a ghost, who tells him that he must revenge the death of his father, which turns out not to have been an accident, but murder.
Revenge is foul and most unnatural murder. Murder most foul as the best is, but is most foul, strange, and unnatural. Haste me to know it, that I with wings as swift as meditation or thoughts of love may sweep the murder. I find the act.
And the story of Hamlet is the story of Hamlet's attempt to carry out the wishes of the ghost.
Here, 'tis given out that sleeping in mine orchard, a serpent Sunday. No, thou noble youth, the serpent would sing thy father's life. Now, where's his crown? Oh, my prophetic soul, my altar!
But Hamlet is also about the torment of the human soul. As Hamlet pursues his revenge, no one in this tragedy will go untouched. Hamlet's soul-searching is one of the most complex and philosophically difficult journeys in all of drama, and offers one of the greatest challenges to any actor.
One wants to feel one can pick the part up like that by the end of 4 weeks. That's what I want to feel, and not that the part's running away with me. Because it's very easy to let it's a big part and suddenly it's gone and it's in control of you.
Who calls on Hamlet?
From the beginning, the actors try to define their characters. But much of the focus in week 1 is on working out physical movements.
It's like fighting with a habit. I kill people. By this stage of the game, love. You don't scare me. Hamlet! My Lord Hamlet!
Who calls on Hamlet?
That's it. And the breath below you.
That's supper.
Where is Polonius? Yeah. That's supper. Supper. Where?
Not where he eats, but where he is eaten. A certain complication of politic worms are even at him. Your worm is your only emperor for diet. We fat all creatures else to fat us, and we fat ourselves for maggots. Your fat king and your lean beggar is but variable service. 2 dishes, but to 1 table. That's the end.
Alas, alas.
A man may eat of the fish that hath fed of the... A man may eat of the...
Fish.
A man may fish with a worm that hath fed of a king. A man may fish with a worm that hath eat of a king, and eat of the fish that hath fed of that worm. Nothing but to show you how a king may go progress through the guts of a beggar.
Where is Polonius?
In heaven. Sent hither to see. But indeed, if your messenger find him not there, seek him in the other place yourself.
As an experienced actor, Jacobi is well familiar with certain elements of a production. But staging a play is more than acting. It involves costumes, sets, lighting, music, a myriad of details, small and large, which all must come together precisely at opening night. The director must influence and coordinate all of these.
It was a portable writing.
In his first meeting with the production staff, Jacobi is still trying to get a feel for his unaccustomed role. Though it will eventually go on to a large theatre in London, this production is being staged initially in the intimate space of the Birmingham Rep's experimental studio. This creates its own set of demands for Jacobi and Jenny Tiramani, the production designer.
Ken and Derek and I met and discussed the play without knowing each other very well, but all very soon got hold of the theatricality of the piece, the very fact that it's about people acting things. The one element that we knew early on that was a real must was an upper level, this balcony here, with something as epic as Hamlet and a tragedy of this sort of play. It's really good to be able to separate people and not always have everybody on the same plane. The elements that arrives and is the court is a set of 4 red curtains, which, joined together, look like this, a wall of curtain to play in front of, which is actually made up of 4 separate curtains. There's the ability to have quite a solid, heavy wall of curtain, or to fragment it. These should do all sorts of things in the production.
The limited cast and confined space of the studio theatre has made certain scenes difficult to stage, especially those calling for many people.
This is the coffin covered with a kind of baize top, which is much bigger than this, which forms a kind of low table, on which, around which, we don't sit, but on which I hope you'll sit. Can you make them with Messenger and Judge?
This early on, most of the actors are still on book. They have not yet learned their lines. The lines will come as their own approaches to character become firmer. In the court scene, Hamlet's uncle, Claudius, addresses his subjects. Claudius is the usurping king who has killed Hamlet's father so he can marry Hamlet's mother and gain the throne. But for Richard Easton, that fact is only one piece of the puzzle.
And he is the antagonist of the play, Claudius, in a way. But I'm not at all sure that the audience, in fact, I'm sure the audience are not meant to realise this. And that the keys are smile and be a villain. Smiling, damned villain. Charm. He's a man he's hustled his way into the crown of Denmark, really. He's married his brother's wife, got his brother's crown, everything, through that. And he's a man presumably of immense charm. One assumes that smiling is there for that reason. And that the audience should see Hamlet is saying this awful man, he's fat, he's bloat, he's all those words. But what the audience sees is a charming, sexy, and easy man who's just charmed the birds off the trees. Can't manage it quite with Hamlet, but then he's not interested in Hamlet either. Hamlet's a loser. He's not interested in losers.
No, have we near it, but she asked. Just him. Just him.
Polonius, the prime minister, can be played as a doddering, comical buffoon. But Jacobi has a different perspective.
And you very rarely smile. Oh, you're not a smiler. No, he doesn't stop. You very rarely smile. You smirk. Just the corners of the mouth just turn up, but you don't smile. There is nothing lovable about you. No. You are a cold fish. You are a very cold fish. You don't crack the jaws.
Polonius, he is usually played rather more as a joke figure and as a buffoon, but he is a minister of state. And there's a story that is quite likely true, that Shakespeare actually based him on Lord Burleigh, who was the chief minister in Queen Elizabeth's time and a very her sort of right-hand man almost. So that he obviously had an enormous amount of authority and power and wouldn't stand any nonsense.
Take my fair hour there, 'tis time me by.
In the court scene, we are also introduced to Polonius's 2 children.
You bow to the Queen?
Laertes and Ophelia are Polonius' children, so he does have a certain feeling of responsibility. I don't think he's got very much real affection for them, even for Ophelia. You see, he's a statesman. I think the focus of his attention is his work, his relationship with the monarchy, with the state. His family are, I think, secondary to him.
Yes. Do not believe his vows, for they are brokers. I would not in plain terms, from this time forth, have you so slander any moment leisure as to give words or talk to the Lord Hamlet.
Sometimes you've got to dig a bit to find out the meaning underneath. And unless you do that, you're going to be saying words, and the character will be meaningless.
This above all, that thine own self be true, and it was follows the night and day, thou canst not then be false to any man.
Language is the glory of Shakespeare. It can also be the greatest challenge to a modern actor. As the Renaissance Company's text advisor, Russell Jackson helps Jacobi and the actors understand and interpret the 400-year-old script and keep it relevant and meaningful.
Building energy from a text is something that's to do with the way actors work and the way actors are trained, and that's one of the things that's not revealed to you as a reader. when you read the play. It can be revealed to an actor, I think, as they rehearse it, as they work in it. And as you compare different stages of rehearsal of a play or the rehearsal with the finished product, you'll see that one of the vital differences is that the actors have found ways to energise words, to use words. It's all very well saying to somebody what to be or not to be means. I can do that, you can do it, from the notes in the edition, from your own mother wit. We can all play that game, that's fine, and it's quite right, we should do. You can say that to an actor and they can still say, yes, but I have to know how to use that. I have to know where the energy in my character is channeled into saying to be or not to be.
But it's now when she...
A soliloquy is a speech spoken by an actor alone on the stage. To be or not to be, in which the despairing Hamlet confronts the idea of killing himself, is the most famous soliloquy in all of drama. Jacobi has departed from tradition with the innovative idea that Hamlet speak directly to Ophelia, taking her into his confidence.
Yes. When I played Hamlet, I was firmly convinced that to be, of all the soliloquies, to be was the one that could be considered not to be a soliloquy, but as a speech, a dramatic speech to Ophelia. It would take, so many feet of film, actually, to explain why I thought that, but it is rooted in the text. Even things like soft do not fair Ophelia, I think, could be explained textually, in the sense that he is saying it to her. I'd love to try it. I'd love to try it. But he doesn't speak to you. You'll have to listen to that a lot, there, we could try it. The irony being that all these now pours into your ear might put you in a more difficult position. All the things going to happen to you. Madness and suicide.
Ophelia is being used by the eavesdropping king and Polonius to get Hamlet to reveal what he is thinking and planning. Historically, she comes on stage just as Hamlet finishes speaking. By having her actually hear his thoughts, Jacobi brings Ophelia fully into the action of the scene.
At the moment, Derek wants me to do to be or not to be to Ophelia, as if a thought as profound as that, the idea of taking his own life, he could only voice to someone like her, whom he, one would imply, feels very strongly for. In doing so, I mean, he kind of opens himself and makes himself even more vulnerable in terms of the context of the scene. So it's a strange sort of distanced thing. It's a sort of, it's like they're not, sort of waving across a kind of, can't quite. What better opportunity is for him to be able to say, look, this is where my head is at the moment. I am thinking of committing suicide. Now, I don't need you, Ophelia, to say anything. He speaks at her, through her, around her. He soliloquizes to her. Now, somebody might say, well, what does Ophelia do while he's doing this? Does she just sit there? Yes, indeed. She just sits there. What else can she do? She's in a very forced situation anyway. She knows that two other people are listening. She doesn't want to be here. She knows she's a decoy. To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether it is nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles and by opposing end them. He then discovers, although we as the audience feel tremendously for her compromised position, having been placed there by her father and the king, he discovers that she, in fact, is there to set him up.
Take these again, for to the noble mind rich gifts wax poor when givers prove unkind.
Can I stop you just a moment? Can I suggest a move for you to begin this, that he's going off? Good my lord.
Yes.
It's them and it's him. It's them and it's him. You've got to make the choice. Do I let him go and say, I'm sorry, Dad, I failed. I couldn't play the scene. He left and I put up and I missed my opportunity. Or do you decide, yes, I've got to obey them. I've got to. Yes. And then stop him. But let us see you make the decision. Who's it going to be? It's going to be them. Right. Yes.
Yes. She's saying it with her eyes, but she can't do it with her eyes. And she knows what she does immediately, And I mean, while she's saying it, but she's trapped, and it's and that's it's definitely the crunch.
Apparently, all, and he's none of us. Go thy ways to a nunnery.
Where's your father?
Let the doors be shut upon him that he may play the fool nowhere but in his own house. Farewell!
And then it clicks. Where is your father? Ah, he's watching us. Well, that was it, Ophelia. That was your last chance. If we could only in some way, if you could have squeezed my hand, if you could have said something. I know it's terrible for you, but that's it. and something snaps, and suddenly you're my mother, you're every woman, you know, you jig, you amble, you lisp, then you betray people, why can't you? I mean, it's not irrational, but it's very savage and it's very extreme. And it's very painful and disturbing to watch, as well as to play.
Each effective drama has at least one moment on which everything hinges, after which, and because of which, nothing can be the same for anyone.
You chick! You ramble and you listen, and you midnight comes creatures, and you make your wilderness doing that! Just so I am no more like it! Made me mad. I say, we will have no more marriages. Those that are married already, all but one shall live. The rest shall keep us there. To another. Go.
His love, his affections do not that way tend. Nor what he spake, though it lacked form a little, was not like madness. There's something in his soul, o'er which his melancholy sits on brood, and I do doubt the hatch, and the disclose may be some danger. Shakespeare invariably writes character. The line is always character. It's not style, it's not verse, it's not information given. Invariably, it's character. And so the whole nature of the line is a revelation of character.
Part of Shakespeare's greatness is that he gives every character, even the wicked and devious, the chance to touch an audience with truth and honesty, as when Claudius, recalling the murder, finds he cannot pray.
My offense is rank. It smells to heaven. It hath the primal, eldest curse upon it. A brother's murder. Pray, can I not? Though inclination be as sharp as will, my stronger guilt defeats my strong intent. What form of prayer can serve my turn? Forgive me my foul murder. That cannot be, since I'm still possessed of those effects for which I did the murder, my crown, mine own ambition, and my queen.
Shakespeare's major characters are so compelling that there can be a tendency to ignore the significance and depth of the minor ones. But Jacobi is helping each actor to realize the full weight and scope of his role.
Welcome, dear Rosencrantz and Guildenstern.
Moreover, that we must long to see you, the need we have to use you.
Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are very, very, in many ways, thankless parts. You come on, you're told what to do, you try and do it to the best that you possibly can. The characters, I mean. And because fail because of this person who is acting in a very strange way.
It's also brighter than both of them put
Right,
together.
yes, brighter than both of them put together. And then you go off and you get killed. Most unfair. And you have to take the curtain call as a soldier, you know what I mean? It's really, nobody knows who you are, who you were. What was he doing?
Which one was which?
Thanks, Rosencrantz and gentle Guildenstern.
Thanks, Guildenstern. And gentle Rosencrantz. And I will meet you in...
These two school friends of Hamlet's are ordered by the king and queen to spy on the prince and report back what they have learned.
I am summoned to the court. And it's a bit like getting away from the problems anyway, but I don't have a clue what is going on. This guy's the king and the queen say to me, it's fantastic you managed to come here, and you are really going to do us a power of good. There's something we want you to do, and you can stay, you know, and if you sort out, I mean, you know, play your cards right, and it's a knighthood. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, God, this is getting me out of the problems that I have got. And nobody knows what my problems are. But what that enables me, hopefully, is that I can come on with a past. Oh, my lord, if my duty be too bold, my love is too unmannerly.
I do not well understand that. Come, so will you clap on the pipe?
I cannot, my lord.
I pray you.
Believe me, I cannot.
I do beseech you.
My lord, I know no touch of it.
It is as easy as lying. Tap on these ventages with your finger and thumb, give it breath with your mouth, and it will discourse most eloquent music. Look, these are the stops.
But these cannot I command to any utterance of harmony. I have not the skill.
Why, look you now how unworthy a thing you would make of me. You would seem to know my stops. You would play upon me. You would pluck out the heart of my mystery. You would sound me from the lowest note to the top of my compass. And there is much music, excellent voice in this little organ, yet cannot you make it speak blood? Do you think I am easier to be played on than a pipe? Well, no.
Call me what instrument you will. Though you can fret me, yet you cannot play upon me.
By the beginning of the third week, all of the actors are off book, having memorized their lines.
The most visible ambition and the fool that uses it. I know, we'll keep you the season. And 3, 2, and that. Stop, make it ready. Can we stop? Can we stop?
Jacoby is refining the blocking, the movement around the stage, and he is beginning to hone and shape the interpretations the actors have brought to him.
The first week is often very good. People work very hard. Second week more difficult because the problems of the play hit you squarely between the eyes. And the third week is often quite a sort of a low week.
This is a tough time in any production, particularly one as complex as Hamlet. Everyone is showing signs of fatigue.
I think the best is to give notes tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock.
Less than 2 weeks remain until opening night.
Lots of work to do about this. Talk tomorrow. God bless.
Learning a fight is like learning a dance routine, and just, you see, rehearsal is the most exhausting thing because your energy of concentration is so intense that even though you might only have been talking about something for a day, by the end of the day, you are just exhausted. And if you have to get up the next morning, an hour and a half before rehearsals begin in order to practice the fight, which has to be learned parrot fashion, and then by the time you get to week 4, suddenly you get excited. It's very difficult. And although we've got a wonderful fight director, and I love fighting with Jay Villas, who's playing Laertes, it's just one of those practical things that makes me understand why some Hamlets of yesteryear would just finish up at the end and go 1, 2, 3, boom, dead.
Take your moment. You are the leading actor. Start it full through.
Several times throughout the rehearsals, the director gives notes on the company's progress.
Give us a taste of your quality the moment you start, and really show us what a wonderful performer you are. But that went very well. Ken, your abiding sin this morning was that you weren't. And this was general, but Ken was the worst offender. You weren't listening to people. You kept jumping in before they finished. It was your desire, I think, because all the adrenaline was going, all the energy was going, and you are the great motor of the play. But it was making you actually not listen, and you were jumping in before they finished or whatever, and so that what was coming from you wasn't the result of what you'd heard or what was coming from them. It was a little bit. This is a general note, but I pick you out because you've got much to do. Just to listen to each other, just to pick up from each other, take from each other, and give to each other, which obviously you do.
The director is being very scrupulous and tough, necessarily, and therefore the whole rehearsal process is throwing up everything that one might reasonably expect of a great play, and a hugely complicated one, and a hugely complicated part, as far as I'm concerned. So I expect if I were finding it easy at this point, I'd be rather worried. As it is, at lunchtime today, I was finding it completely and utterly defeating.
As Hamlet becomes increasingly isolated, his only friend is Horatio, the student scholar. Horatio is the one confidant Hamlet allows to know his true nature and intentions.
Something too much of this.
Hamlet is all things to all men. It's one of those parts that he has every different emotion in him. And Horatio, in a way, is a mirror of his soul. He comments on what's happening around him. He has to be the biggest spotlight on Hamlet in the play. He has to focus his attention all the time on Hamlet. I don't mean just looking at him, but he has to be there emotively towards Hamlet all the time. I mean, it's very exciting playing it, but it's very hard because you have to concentrate so hard all the time you're on.
Here, stooping to your clemency, we beg your hearing.
The theatrical theme, which runs throughout the drama, reaches its height after a troupe of travelling actors arrives at Elsinore. Hamlet has them stage a play before the court, depicting the murder of a king.
Is there no offence in it?
No, they give a jest, poison in jest. No offence in the world.
What do you call the play?
A mousetrap. Marry her? Tropically. The play is the image of a murder done in Vienna. Gonzago is the Duke's name, his wife Baptista. You shall see anon.
Hamlet and Horatio hope Claudius's reaction will tell them if the ghost was speaking the truth.
Immediately. He poisons him in the garden for his estate. The story is extant and written in very choice Italian. You shall see anon how the murderer gets the love of Gonzago's wife. says, my lord.
Give up the play.
Give up the play.
You'll be so light.
Okay, can we stop there? Well done, lovely. This is one, Luciana. Yes. This is the one. This is the one to watch. This is the one to watch. This is the. Ma'am, how like you this play?
The lady does protest too much, you think.
Oh, but she'll keep her word.
The relationship between Hamlet and Gertrude has become a lot clearer. And Gertrude's involvement both with the man she's married, the man whom that man killed, and her son, who was trying to kill the man she married, that's an awful dilemma. And that's become very much more evident, and the consequences of it more evident, in various ways.
What's the matter? Well, you have my father much offended.
Come, you answer with an idle tongue.
Go, you question with a wicked tongue.
Now, what's the matter?
Have you forgot me?
No, by the road, not so. You are the queen, your husband's brother's wife. And would it were not so, you are my mother.
I've got a son myself who's 19, almost 20. So the relationship between Gertrude and Hamlet, I just viewed from that sort of perspective. I mean, I used my experience with Rory, my son, and applied it to Hamlet. Now, it may not be appropriate as time goes on. I may have to drop elements of it, but that was the only kind of truthful place that I could start at.
Sit you down, you shall not budge. You go not till I set you up a glass where you may see the inmost part of you. Can you make the journey? You get down that corner too soon, I think. Can you make the journey this way and that way? I'll do that wee thrust after what will I do? So you've got more room. Come and sit you down, you shall
In the
not
closet scene, Hamlet confronts his mother in her bedchamber, not realizing that Polonius is once again listening behind the curtains.
A rat, dead for a ducat, dead! Oh, what a rash and bloody deed is this?
I thought he'd be almost as bad, good mother, as kill a king and marry him and his brother.
After lunging through the curtain, Hamlet discovers it is not his uncle, but Polonius, whom he has killed.
Wretched, rash, intruding fool! Ah, I took thee for thy better!
That after to kill a king, let that take you away from that. Let that take you quite a way away from it. Oh God, yes. My very worst fears, perhaps are now bubbling to the surface. Perhaps it wasn't a snake, and I always knew it wasn't a snake. I never believed that story. And of course, the last 2 or 3 weeks, realized more and more how much the disturbance that he feels within himself is to do, yes, with the injunction to revenge his father's death, but monumentally affected by his revulsion at the attitude of his mother.
Hey! Sit you down!
And let me win your heart, for so I shall, if it be made of penetrable stuff.
What have I done?
If damned custom have not brassed it so that it be proof and bulwark against sense.
What have I done that thou darest wag thy tongue and noise so rude against me?
Such an act that blurs the grace and blush of modesty. Calls virtue hypocrite, plucks off the rose from the fair forehead of an innocent love, and sets a blister there.
Here, upon this picture and on this,
the counterfeit presentment of two brothers. See, what a grace was seated on this brow. Hyperion's curls, the front of Jove himself. When you get the idea of the pictures, just for a moment, together, and look here upon these pictures. Look here upon this picture and on this. The counterfeit presentment of two brothers. See, what a grace was. Now, let's have all your attention in seeing your father. Seeing your father, let it take you. Now, see how that fires? Yeah? See that one? There's your husband. See him? Like a mildewed ear blasting his social body. You see him? Yes. Looking now what follows. This is your husband. Like a mildewed ear blasting his wholesome brother. Have you eyes? Could you on this fair mountain leave to feed and batten on this moor? Have you eyes? You cannot call it love. Have you eyes? I'll drop these. Oh, no, I don't. Have you eyes? You cannot call it love, for at your age, the heyday and the bloodiest tame, it's humble and waits upon the judgment. Now, get away from him. Yeah, I feel as if I chase you around. If I can't get away from him, it's much better doing this on the move. It's much better. Could you, on this fair mountain, leave to feed and batten on this moor? Have you eyes? You cannot call it love, for at your age, the heyday and the bloodiest tame, it's humble. Now, take that. Oh, no. So the insults that you're going to get become too much. But don't
absorb everyone and be hurt by everyone. Some of them fight back, reject some.
Could you, on this fair mountain leave, to feed and batten on this moor? Ha! Have you eyes? You cannot for it love, but at your age, the heyday and the bloody tame, it's humble and waits upon the judgment. And what judgment but step from this to this? What devil was it that has accustomed you, a footman blind? Eyes without feeling, feeling without sight, ears without hands or eyes, smelling sans all are but a sickly part of one. True sense could not so mope. Oh, shame, where is thy blush?
But I do think that he is appalled by what she's done in every sense, in the sort of larger moral sense, in the very particular physical sense. He can't bear the idea of this uncle touching her. He can't bear that. And it's that, as you know, as much as the knowledge that his uncle has killed his father, that drives him. And I think that in my performance, that's been out of balance, and I'm now trying to find the right balance. And it seems to me that I've discovered it. A bit late in the bloody day for me to discover it, but I'm discovering it.
Come here, my dear Hamlet, sit by me.
Oh, good mother, here's metal more attractive. Lady, shall I lie on your lap?
No, my lord.
I mean, my head upon your lap.
Aye, my lord.
What, do you think I'm in country
I
matters?
think nothing, my lord.
Well, it's a fair thought to lie between men and today.
What is my lord?
Oh, nothing.
You are married.
In clarifying the nature of his revulsion, his affection, whatever, for his mother, it affects very much his relationship with Ophelia, which becomes a kind of mirror for that relationship, given it's the one female in the play who, for at least part of the time, he is allowed access to.
But once Hamlet has mistakenly killed her father, no salvation between them can be possible. Ultimately, Ophelia is reduced to the madness that Hamlet only pretends.
Tomorrow is St. Valentine's Day, all in the morning time. And I am I cannot choose but weep to think that they would lay him in the cold ground.
Then she kills herself, driven to it in part, according to Jacoby's vision, by the thought planted in her mind in to be or not to be.
Now, find your justice on the Credente.
Claudius manipulates Laertes' grief for his sister and father, and the young man's desire for revenge. The king makes him an accomplice in his struggle against Hamlet.
Laertes is the opposite side of the coin to Hamlet because he supposedly comes in and deals with the revenge. He doesn't soliloquize about it. He doesn't think. He does it. And he ends up dying for it. But it's the same motives of the revenge cycle, of having to do it. And you're damned if you don't revenge. And you're damned if you do, because you've killed. So all of them, from the minute that their fathers are murdered, have to do this thing, whether it's right or wrong. It's a moral obligation. So he has to kill Hamlet, whatever Claudius has done.
The technical run is the first time all of the elements of the production come together. In the tech run, the lighting cues are set and the music and sound effects are timed and laid in. The actors, in costume for the first time, go through all of their positions. This is the initial opportunity for the director to see how the whole production works. Early on, Jacoby had rejected the idea of traditional Elizabethan dress in favor of costumes which made more of an interpretive statement about the mood and message of the play.
As far as costumes were concerned, it was that feeling of, we thought, you know, a war going on somewhere, a war imminent in the play. What about those early years of this century, between 1900 and 1914, pre-First World War? And I always said I didn't want the costumes to be costumes, I wanted them to be clothes that people wore.
With the men, it's been a lot more difficult because some people are actually playing 6 characters, but that also is quite difficult to find the right costume to fit their character, like an old sailor would look in 1910, and finding, you know, the right jackets and hats and bits and pieces. But I mean, the best thing is just do lots and lots of research, looking through books, and old photographs are definitely the best thing, and just going through them and maybe just picking an idea out of one book and putting it with something else.
Hamlet, this pearl is thine. Best that I help get in the cup.
The last stage of the process is the dress rehearsal, presented under actual performance conditions. In the final scene, Claudius lures Hamlet into a friendly fencing match with Laertes, but Laertes is fighting with a poisoned sword. And as added insurance, there is a poisoned wine goblet for Hamlet's refreshment.
It rubs thy brows. The queen carouses to thy fortune, Hamlet. Do not drink.
I wanted at the end of the play the Queen to be quite clearly committing suicide in order to save her son. Derek thought that if I took the poison and was conscious of it, that in a way it detracted from that death, and he'd rather have the death than the poison, so I've agreed to do it his way.
Incestuous, murderous, damn their day. Drink of this potion. Is thy Julian here? Follow my mother! It's just as us.
After the rigors of the dress rehearsal, the company enjoys a rare interval of relaxation amidst the mounting tension of tomorrow's opening night.
At least they weren't confident.
The next morning, the cast assembles in the dressing room to hear Jacoby's final notes.
This afternoon, Miss Ross, let it be gentle. The good thing about last night is that we've got kind of a performance under our belt with all the horrors. The energy in... You like that?
Yeah, it's just getting done.
The energy in the dialogue must be kept up. I do feel that it was freeing up so much last night that I couldn't move. When, after David has said, my lord, we were sent for. So that... They want sweeties. There. You want to do the curtains? She's just going to check the same place. And that's all we'll do. And you stop the curtains doing it.
Regardless of the play, there is something similar about all backstages on opening night. Jacoby visits both dressing rooms to offer his support, to wish everyone luck, and to let go.
Thank you.
Now, after 4 weeks of intensive and loving work, there is nothing more for him to do.
You gotta leave the top. Just align the stuff.
There are always last-minute crises.
These characters are going to cringe.
But please, it doesn't matter.
Oh God, it's on trousers on! Oh God!
You've got the wrong trousers on, Lovey.
Just let the 5 minutes go.
You'll be late, you'll be off, oh my God! We don't want to go down there. Don't tag it down.
One by one, the actors make the